if you hear a song so many times, or even
Oh
similar
yeah,
songs so many times, it starts to lose its actual sound. Same thing where if you hear a
yeah. It's like
word,
Mozart ringtones. Yeah.
it's like Mozart ringtones. Oh my God. Yeah, exactly. Welcome, everyone, to the 17th episode of the INNERVERSAL podcast, where psychology intersects with other subjects. In this episode, we'll be discussing psychology and art. And we have with us the legendary painter, Tigran Tsitoghdzyan. Tigran, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Tigran, can you just tell us, before we dive into these questions, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
So I'm an artist painter. I paint from age of 5 with oil paint, and it's been my whole life. I was born in Armenia, born and raised. I left Armenia to continuing my study in Switzerland, Europe, France, Great Britain, and then even South Africa. And then I moved to New York about 17, 18 years ago. And I'm still, most of the year, I'm still based in New York, partially in Armenia, going back and forth. But yeah, working in between New York and Armenia. Let's say I have two studios.
If I'm not mistaken, you earned your Master's of Arts almost exactly 2 decades ago, right?
It should be something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. So, speaking of, I guess, development and things of that sort, the idea of nature versus nurture has existed for hundreds of years. Sir Francis Galton was one of the ones who tried to discern what is the greater influence on one's development. Is it the way in which someone has been raised, or rather the sort of the genetic predispositions that one possesses? Your mother was a concert pianist and your father was a philosopher. Do you see their sort of influence on you, or do you sense that there's that kind of thing within you? And I guess the overarching question is, do you believe that this sort of artistry that you possess comes more from your family and from your biological dispositions, or something that was more cultivated? And of course it's probably a mixture of the two, but which one would you believe is more dominant?
It's difficult to really measure what is more dominant. I think I have been gifted from young age, and I think it's as good as bad because usually I think a gift develop a laziness in you because you start feeling that things are coming really easy, and those kids are like the most exposed, I think, to failure. I think pretty young, and I felt it myself that something that I would do very, very easily, the others had to work really hard to get like kind of similar result, or maybe not even sometimes. So for me, the discipline and hard work became the focus from very young age. I was, I think, very lucky, I think, of the environment that my parents created around me. Like that was like the key point, I think, because my dad is like he's like amazing character, and he did like so many things in his life, from engineering to photograph to like everything. And we had all these conversations and talks, and he really grounded me from very, very young age. And I think the key was that I understood that without hard working, like I will lose the talent, I'll lose everything, and I will be nowhere after this very short time of, yeah.
So, if I'm not mistaken, you believe that there is perhaps some sort of genetic predisposition, but nonetheless, it's the environment that crafts you, because you could have the talent, but if there's nothing to harness that talent, it doesn't really do anything. It maybe atrophies even.
Yeah, I think there is. I believe that there is a natural talent that we all born very talented, but like some in one matter and another one in another. Like, let's say somebody was born like being much more, have much more ease in math that than me, and I was like very visual. So like when I got the oil paints for the first time, I felt I've been doing this for like all my life. Like I've been doing this for 100 years before. Like everything was so easy and clean, natural. Like mixing of colors, like technique, all this. Like nobody had to explain me how to do these things. Like it was very natural. And I was painting like subconscious, let's say. But I was feeling that. mm I cannot really explain how it was. It was like supernatural. I think the easiest way to say it was so natural to me. I didn't have to ever think what I'm gonna do, why I'm doing it, and it was just there were no questions. I was just doing what I had to do and what I wanted to do, and I didn't want to do anything else. So definitely, I was driven by everything that is visuals. I was doing sculptures, I was doing installations since like I was born, and yeah, then I discovered colors, the paints, and that was it.
I love that. Then I discovered colors. What a poetic line.
And then I forgot the colors later on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. Well, so you've been painting since 5, which is a first of all a remarkable thing. And you, at least since 10 years old, you've been painting very seriously. You've spent, and now you're in your 40s. Have you seen your personal development echo through your paintings?
Well, it drastically changed. I'm not sure if it's changed in a good way or a bad way, but it changed. Sometimes I look back to my childhood paintings and I'm kind of jealous. I wish I could paint like that today because I was so subconscious. And now it's much more cerebral. Like I have to, I'm thinking about concepts. I'm thinking what is bothering me in the world, what is wondering me in the world. Like how can I talk about it visually on a canvas? Like before, I didn't think about those things. I was just painting. So yeah, it definitely changed. I think when I became a teenager, and of course you develop as a human. You start thinking and analyzing things way more. Um, yeah, it became more conceptual. It became it's I start from an idea before I was starting from a shape, from a color. So yeah, definitely the approach completely changed. And also the freedom of painting completely changed because uh, I never felt that I'm painting and somebody gonna see it. So like a lot of things change actually. Yeah, you have no pressure. You don't paint for galleries or shows or whatever. I was painting for myself, and that childhood naive freedom is like the best thing ever, of course. Today, if even I can say I don't really care what people think, but you still care. Like you still you know that this painting gonna be hanged like in a gallery or in a museum, and you're gonna be judged. You're gonna be loved or hated or whatever. So you cannot. I cannot paint like I was on a in space without viewers. Like you still paint with thought of viewers, of course. If even it's a small part of it, but there is part of it.
It sounds like you're kind of juxtaposing the rawness of being essentially innocent and not yet having any sort of major influences, or we'll say a set direction that's societally reinforced,
Yeah.
versus the technical craftsmanship that is catered towards different, we'll say, individuals or galleries or anything of that sort. Would that be fair to say?
Well, a lot of things. I think also craftsmanship it's a little part of it, but I would say also there is a fact of art history that is coming along. So you don't want to repeat something that have been done before. So you educate yourself, you do your research, you very young age, actually, my first school was copying great masters. So I start copying great masters like Italians, Dutch painters, whatever. So that was my school. And then you start getting influence. Like you discover, oh, Picasso had the vision of a human face like this. Wow, this is crazy. And then I don't know, Gauguin painted in these colors, and like I don't know, Sarian painted like this or whatever, you know. So you start discovering. So you start building your database of your reference that influence you, or like you appreciate, and then you start saying like what I can bring to the table, you know, because when you're a kid, you just don't know all these things. You don't ask those questions. You just have fun. It's just a game, and you play the game, and like you're bored, you're tired, you just throw it away, you go, you do something else. When you start educating yourself, you ask all these questions, like what I'm bringing, like what is my take on this, like how I distort the reality, um, so it's relevant, you know, how I distort the thing. It's relevant, and it's not repeating somebody's other vision, and you know. So yeah, like I have my own approach, which is a little bit different. Like I don't try to niche some certain like trends or whatever. I'm going completely against the trends of contemporary art or what is trendy today. But a lot of people are doing that. So like each artist have its own routine, their own way of thinking. Some more commercial artists think like what I can do, what is popular to sell. Another one is doing something that is like a political art that is like touching today's problems, social problems, political problems, whatever. So each artist have their own criterias, but definitely you start analyzing and asking a lot of questions. Why you're doing this and how you're doing this.
So this kind of segues pretty smoothly into the question of perhaps the cliche question of who would you say are your major influences or inspirations for creating the art that you create today?
Wow, that's I have a whole library of them.
Are there maybe like let's say not just the top three, if you can, because if you were to ask me my top three favorite psychologists or top three favorite writers, I would have enormous difficulty. But if you asked me to choose three that are representative and non-overlapping, that would actually be a little bit easier for me because then I could
Hmm.
think of this sort of metaphysical space and I want to capture this area, and this area that I feel is my, we'll say, parameters of how I think, how I perceive, and how I write.
The problem that I have to call names is like they change pretty quickly. Um, so like I think each period of my progress, I had a different artists that influenced me. I also had like musicians that influenced me. I think like I painted a lot with the music of Glenn Gould, and I think like his mathematical performance of Bach like really influenced me. It just put me in some certain meditation mode that I even start seeing things differently with that specific music. And if I play the same over played by another pianist is like different, like especially this guy. Um, so, but let's say recently, my biggest influence is not other artists.
I love this idea of being inspired by a sort of a lateral or diagonal art. I mean,
Yeah.
I write almost exclusively to either Chet Baker or Pink Floyd. And it depends on what I'm writing. Like if I'm writing for something that's, let's say emotional or requires a sort of a very humane perspective on things, Chet
Hmm.
Baker is definitely the way to go. His voice is so sad and broken and imperfect, and the trumpeteering is great and all of that sort of jazz, pun not intended. And with Pink Floyd, it's more something that's it sort of occupies all of my kind of ADHD, and all I can do is research. All I can do is do
Yeah.
this kind of very straightforward, uh, I guess, information gathering and extrapolation.
I can totally relate. Yeah.
Yeah. What other musicians? You said Glenn Gould.
Pink
Whom
Floyd
else?
as well. Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, a lot of rock music, a lot of sometimes like now recently I play a lot of Keith Jarrett, jazz pianist. I play Hamasan.
Tigran Hamasyan.
Yeah,
I'm going to try and get him on the podcast at some point. He is such a legend, and he's from my city.
he's awesome.
Yeah, he's incredible.
We have all roots in our city.
He is, if I'm not mistaken, in one of his interviews, he mentioned that he was kind of fusing, or rather, I'm butchering his quote, but basically transmitting heavy metal and like almost like death metal, that like explosive sound,
Absolutely.
into the channel of jazz. And when you hear his music, there are these wild explosions of so many things happening, and then the sudden quiet that gives you that recognition of
System of a Down.
kind of like System of a Down to some
Yeah,
degree.
yeah, exactly.
Oh my god, his
Yeah, I
song!
think he was inspired by them.
I think so too. I mean, yeah, I mean, the song "Entertain Me," for example. When I hear that, and the
Yeah,
second it's on, he's just like, "Oh my god, what's happening?" You feel like you're running through a forest.
yeah.
Ah, what a song!
Sometimes I need to listen to him.
Yeah, of course. Would you? Who would be? Let's say, who would be the biggest surprise on the
Yeah,
list?
as a musician.
Hmm.
Surprise! Wow. Uh,
For while you're painting.
mm,
I can give you an example. I spoke to the chess grandmaster Levon Ohronian.
yeah.
Um, I don't even know, like maybe 7 years ago, and I was asking him, what do you do to prepare for, your matches? And he told me a bunch of things, but one thing that stood out is he listens to old school rap, and that completely caught me by surprise, especially because he absolutely knew what he was talking
Yeah.
about. He was like, "Yeah, KRS-One, Slick Rick," and I was like, "What? That's so bizarre."
Wow. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I'm definitely old school. I don't listen much like modern things. Like I don't. I was just thinking a few days ago that there is no single artist that I'm waiting for a new release of album. Like nothing really excites me from anything like of today. And I maybe I'm getting older or whatever, but I think that the golden era like is in the past and I keep going back. Like I keep re-listening things. The biggest surprise is that like I can find out songs that I've been listening when I was like a teenager that I completely forgot. Like the other day, I found this song of Kingdom Come, yeah, that I didn't hear for like I think 30 years, and I found it. I'm like, oh my god, I think I had this song on repeat for like 10,000 times.
How fascinating is it that when you go back to a song you hadn't heard for quite some
Oh,
time,
it's crazy.
what's wild is
All these feelings come back, like this,
exactly,
like you start having feelings that you completely forgot
yeah.
of your teenage, like yeah, yeah,
There's
absolutely.
almost like I almost picture, sorry to be so like imagistic about everything, but I picture like a comet. The rock is the art, and then this gigantic tail of emotions comes with it. And you don't necessarily know that there's a tail to it. The object appears before you, straight towards you, and it hits you, and or it passes through you, and then suddenly you see
Mhm.
this infinite almost tail of all the experiences that it's tethered to, and the emotions and the loves and the angers and all of these things. And how
Yeah.
amazing. And you do that too. You do that with your painting. I mean, people
Mhm.
who see some of your works for the first time, that will be for many an indelible mark in their consciousness that will, I believe, especially because you draw things that are both beautiful, sometimes jarring, conceptual, all of these things simultaneously. And I think without a doubt, people see some of your art and that will always be locked into a series of emotions and experiences. And when they see that piece of art again, I posit that they will once again be able to re-experience a good portion of those emotions.
Well, it's the biggest compliment. But yeah, like I have a terrible memory, but when I listen to music, I my emotions and memories from the some moments come back. That's like biggest reminders because every song, every melody I have some emotions attached to them. So
And it's so crystal clear.
that's why I love to replay some old ones. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Even smells, sometimes like smells of like my old place or like
One of the
yeah.
best ways to think about thinking is to consider like a spider web where everything is associated with everything to various degrees of approximation. I remember the very first time I heard, you're going to laugh because it's, it's not like a very cerebral song, but One More Time by Daft Punk. I remember the first time I heard that. It was
Hmm.
New Year's Eve. I was partying with like the big kids, and I still remember the carpet. I still remember the smells, the look of some people's faces. I can still see it. I can still see the strobe lights, and yeah, it's just how fascinating that this song, decades later for me, when I hear it, there's still that flickering lights and the faces. I could still see it crystal clear because the
Yeah.
associations are so strongly tied. They haven't been reinforced since. I haven't had that exact experience since. Many times I've been waiting for the train and that song is playing on my headphones. Like I've had so many experiences that are not anywhere near the original experience, yet that original experience is so bright and enthusiastic.
Yeah. It's funny you say Daft Punk because when I heard them for the first time, I was understanding that I hear it for the first time, but I had a feeling that I heard it like some like in my past life or something. It was so familiar. They were like so familiar. I don't know why. Like I had a feeling that I had this music in my head forever, but I was listening it for the first time. It was very, very weird with Daft Punk.
I suspect that it could perhaps be because Daft Punk has influenced so many other bands
Yeah.
and DJs and all kinds of musicians, actually. I mean, they created French house pretty much.
Yeah,
And that
for sure.
echoed very, very loudly across all of, we'll say, the music imaginarium. And you're hearing perhaps so many different echoes that when you hear the original sound, you're like, I've
Yeah.
heard this before.
It's like deja vu, you know, like you have impression that you lived this moment a while ago, but actually it's happening like friction of a second.
So, speaking of all kinds of different artists, there are so many that you learn about, all kinds of artists, writers, painters, musicians that have hobbies that are just as important. Their hobbies are as important as their art. Sometimes they're
Yeah.
expected. Georgia O'Keeffe loved nature walks. Pablo Picasso loved ceramics and making these like masks and playing with these toys. And some were a little bit less expected. Like Frida Kahlo, for example, just kept a bunch of different animals like monkeys and deer and parrots at her house, which was La Casa Azul. And one of the strangest ones is Salvador Dali, who had a deep interest in nuclear physics and DNA, which, I mean, not expected. Your interests and hobbies that I know about are both ping pong and arm wrestling. One is why, and two is
That's funny.
how do you think these sort of hobbies or interests, whatever you want to call them, how do you think your hobbies like arm wrestling and ping pong influence your craft?
Hmm. Well, I wish my hobbies were as romantic and beautiful as Picasso's and Dali's. Um,
As in nuclear physics?
exactly. Yeah, it will be much more interesting, I think, to talk about it. But it's well, it I didn't really choose those hobbies. It's just you you love doing what you're good at. So I just randomly discovered that I have like a good genetics and natural like static strength, and I remember like arm wrestling kind of it was a kid thing. Like I was beating all the kids around, and then I started beating all the grown-ups, still being kid. And then when I went to study in London, like in England, we didn't have much money, and we started partying, and we were so broke we couldn't buy a beer or whatever. And a friend of mine, like my best friend, who at the time he just like let's just arm wrestle this bouncers in a pubs.
Like bet on it?
Yeah, like let's can you think you can beat him for a beer? And I'm like, oh, I don't know, like I think I can. And these guys were like twice my size, whatever, and I start like pretending that I'm beating them really difficultly. So he repeat, he come back, and then his friend come back. So like within like 10 minutes we'll have like beers to share, and like we were like, wow, this is a cool thing. Let's do it again next time, but in a different pub because like you cannot go to the same place. So we did that for a year. And yeah, it's kind of like so it stayed there at the amateur level, and I'm like perfectionist. So one day I'm like, let me I know that professionals is like different level. Let me try to go to a club where professionals train and just see where I am at with my strength. So to be honest, like I never been serious into arm wrestling. It's just I just found out that I have a potential to be pretty good at it because I went to Armenia, practiced with national team, and I went to New York to clubs, and like yeah, I could handle like pretty tough guys who are like professional for years. So yeah,
I would be so afraid to ruin my hands that are crafting the main interest that I have to do something like arm wrestling.
yeah, there is a danger, but I know where is the breaking point. So there is like this position where the arms are breaking, and I'm like
Mhm,
totally avoiding that. I'm not going there.
mhm.
So, and I don't practice that often. But I do more, way more. I do table tennis, and I love driving cars fast. So that's my adrenaline. I do much more often that. So I'm pretty addicted to adrenaline of driving. That's where I'm thinking, analyzing, and like when I have a new series to think about, I'm driving fast somewhere in the mountains, nowhere like in the city or wherever somebody can see me.
Yeah, we also it's a little tougher to drive fast in the city as well.
Yeah.
So let me kind of reformulate the question, or at least posit something, and you tell me how far off I am. With ping pong, you're both static and that you're not really moving too much away from this very confined space, generally speaking. And
Hmm.
at the same time, there are these explosive movements. Arm wrestling has a similar um, kind of description, except you're a little bit more static and the explosiveness is more centralized. Your Much of your artwork has this kind of duality of people who are seemingly stationary, yet there are these all these paradoxical shapes indicating very clear movement. Do you think there's any connection there, or am I just extrapolating all these things and noticing these two things and saying, oh, they must be connected?
Yeah, my previous series, the Mirror series, it was very static. And after some time, I felt like I want motion, I want the movement. So I started the new series where it's all in the movement. Um, for me, it's very interesting because art is a static form of self-expression. Like it's not moving. It's not a movie. It's not video. It's not theater. It's not. Uh, but you can create an illusion of a movement. Like you can talk about movement in a static way. So I'm very interested about that conversation, like in a static way, showing a movement, showing speeds, showing um, progress, any kind of process, I think, because technically you're painting a moment which come from photography. Like photography, it's a 1 second, like it's a one instant, let's say, of reality. But the painting you're painting during, like I paint during a month or two. So the time stops for like 2 months that you paint but in reality it's not stopping. It's like there is a movement in it. It just you cannot see it, but the conversation about it, I think like the energy is there, and of course the subject as well. But for me, it's very interesting that you're painting about 2 months a static thing.
And it ends up looking like it's moving. I mean,
Yeah.
when I was at your gallery, the one in Yerevan in Armenia, I remember I was there with my friend Lucy, and we were looking at one of the pictures, and we are like, it looks like she's moving,
Mhm.
even though she was static. And it's just, I don't know, it's a fascinating thing. And I do wonder if perhaps your hobbies are manifesting there.
Maybe, maybe. Table tennis is like it's is this sport where it demands so much focus and concentration. It's the only time that I cannot even think about anything else. So when I go to play like a tournament or whatever, a practice session, I'm coming out completely canceled. Like my mental health and physical and everything. I feel like a newborn, really tired, but completely newborn. Yeah, completely canceled.
So, by any chance, have you heard of a flow state?
Flow state?
Mhm.
No.
So, it's actually um, a concept that was proposed by the Hungarian psychologist. His name is Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. You can see that last name,
Okay.
Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, is about this phenomenon called a flow state. And the zoomed out, very simple description is sometimes when we're engaging in an activity, we suddenly lose ourselves in the activity.
Hmm.
Time disappears, even our sense of self disappears, and we kind of become one with the action. And then once it's done, we're almost like waking up from a dream. We're back in our carnal selves, our regular flesh and blood. Our thoughts are suddenly there. The time is suddenly back, and we're now once again just a human being human. And it sounds like from your description of driving very quickly, of arm wrestling, of ping pong or table tennis, of painting, it sounds like you enter these flow states pretty regularly. Would that be an accurate assumption?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Isn't it? It's fascinating.
Completely disconnect from the rest of the world all the time.
Yeah. And he
Yeah.
mentions that you can enter a flow state from anything. I mean, even you have to be sufficiently challenged. I mean, he mentioned that it could be anything from riding a bicycle to sex to having a great conversation to racing to writing. Any of these things can trigger a flow
Hmm.
state. There's a type of brain scan called a fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging, and it basically can read different parts of the brain based on which areas are getting what we'll call just blood oxygen, or they're being activated. One thing that you see when people are entering a flow state is there is a lot of activity in the front of the brain, which is responsible for executive functioning. And that makes sense because you're challenged.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, once you enter a flow state, a certain part of your prefrontal cortex suddenly just not turns off, but becomes very inactive suddenly. And that area is called the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. What that small area is responsible for is self awareness, the awareness of time, the awareness of awareness itself. And how cool that we can see that this is actually a neuroanatomic occurrence, that there's a part of the brain that's responsible for how aware we are. And once we enter those beautiful moments, which we call flow states, that that particular region responsible for awareness is suddenly quieted and we become one with the thing that we're occupied with.
Yeah. I totally agree. Yeah. Totally agree. I get there very often when I paint with the right music and everything. I That's why I can paint 20 hours straight without feeling the hunger, without feeling that I'm actually tired and need to sleep or whatever.
You just disappear into the act.
Yeah, I disappear. If I turn off the phone, which I do at night mostly, daytime is kind of difficult. That's why like my most productive time it's nighttime because I get there completely like for 7, 8 hours every night.
Did you also get it during your arm wrestling as well? The flow states?
No, arm wrestling it's a weird sport because it's a lot of adrenaline and the action happens just a few seconds. Sometimes it's just 1 second.
That's true.
And then after 1 second it's clear. But like the build on it, it's very adrenaline driven. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's different.
I remember you mentioning that you would initially play against bouncers who are twice your size to sort of see how you fare, and also so you and your friends could purchase some beers based on winning that wager. While many very notable painters struggled with drugs and alcohol, like you had Basquiat, who very famously was addicted to cocaine and heroin. You have Salvador Dali, who experimented with ether and opium. Jackson Pollock with alcohol, Van Gogh with alcohol, especially absinthe. You, on the other hand, don't really partake in drugs to the point in which you don't even have, if I'm not mistaken, you don't even have caffeine. Why? What led you to that decision? If I'm accurate here, and how
Yeah.
do you think that influences your work?
It started super early. Like my parents drink a lot of coffee and my dad smokes. So I was watching him that he had to take a break from whatever he was doing to have his coffee and cigarette. And I think I was 6. I was already completely locked in painting, and I said like, I'll never do this. Like, I'll never start drinking coffee and smoking because that will stop me of being able to paint like 10 hours straight. Because if I have an addiction, any kind of addiction, I'll be forced to take breaks, and exactly I will have to get out of this floating state,
Mhm.
which I don't want to. I want to stay there as long as possible. So an addiction will keep reminding you that, hey, you need to get out because you need something. So at the age of 6, 7, I already completely decided that I don't gonna have any addictions or like as least addictions as possible. We still need to eat and breathe and get some
Yeah, I don't
sleep.
know if I would call those addictions. Those are more just necessary biologic drives.
Yeah, yeah, still addictions.
It sounds like the only addiction you really have is the things in which you've made sort of either your hobbies or your actual art, the painting. That seems to be to some degree like an addiction. Not actually an addiction, of course.
Yeah,
By the way, do you know what this word addict comes from?
to add something, I don't know.
Well, I mean, kind of, but
Yeah,
the real thing was the addictus were the slaves in ancient Rome.
okay,
The captured slaves were called the addictus. So you think that the word addiction it is tethered, it is tied to the idea of being enslaved
makes
to
sense.
something.
Sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I decided I don't gonna do it. I start drinking some alcohol when I was younger, and like in England, I had way too much alcohol, I think, during that 1 year. And in the end of like when I returned from England, I said that this is it. I'm done. So from age of
Mm.
21, I barely drink, maybe once or twice. It's not like I can have a drink, but not when I'm working. Maybe when I travel, I
Mhm.
can have one drink, whatever. But
Well, that makes sense. So as long as you're working, and if you're working 20 hours a day,
yeah,
there's not going to be much room, especially because there's the after effects that can last for a while, whether it's smoking a cigarette or having a coffee or, a whiskey.
I definitely don't need it. Yeah, and yeah,
Right. Can I ask what do you think? And I'm not asking you to pass judgment, but I'm just curious, just internally, what do you think about people who do believe that they need cocaine or alcohol or heroin in many cases to produce the art that they produce?
yeah, I can totally see it. Sometimes I think that I should do that too. It's just I don't want to. But
Please don't. Please don't.
um, w- no, of course. But like when you have too much, like I think my problem as an artist that I'm a perfectionist. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing. Like my perfectionist side also limits me of freedom. So when you cannot do it, when you're aware, you wanna run away from your
Mhm.
weaknesses, and the easiest way to run away is to get high or drunk. So you free up yourself. It's like when we're teenagers, like why are we getting drunk? Like it's just to get more, I don't know, to talk to girls or something. Like that's the first reason, right? Because when we're completely aware, the contact is much more difficult. Or yeah, I don't know, the teenagers. It's the same thing with the when you're older, but that's not an issue anymore. But you have different issues. So you want to run away from your reality. You want to run away of your weaknesses. You want to run away of facing where you're at the moment or
Mhm.
something. But as an artist, if you are failing to find your way of being as aware person, you try to find it unawarely,
Mhm.
let's say. And Basquiat had that problem. Basquiat was a genius, but he couldn't do what he was doing when he was
Yeah.
aware. He had to be high when he was painting, and a lot of other people as well. And listen, if he had to do that, he was doing the right thing because the art he created, it totally worth it.
Well,
Like if I was asking, like, would I accept being drag addict and do what he was doing, or just have like a very clean and regular life? I would choose his life
I
for
think only
sure.
artists could possibly understand what sounds like a very illogical
Oh,
idea.
for me, life is completely illogical thing. Like for me, the end result and like worth much more. Who care if Mozart was a healthy person? Was he amazing human being or not? Like nobody cares. We care about what he left after him. And like he made all
Mhm.
of us, he influenced all of us and made us, gave us like incredible moments of music, you know. So
Yeah, it's that infinite echo.
yeah, exactly. Same thing like Leonardo. Like yeah, we have legends about how what kind of person he was, but does it really change
Mhm.
anything? I don't think.
Mhm.
Like if I would trade anything, my health, my lifespan, whatever, to become a genius. Like that's 100%.
To become a genius or to produce your genius.
Yeah, to but like to find something that is like so relevant, it's gonna stay in history, you know, that you really
Mm.
um because as an artist, like you don't want to be an average artist. Like you if you put your
Mhm.
life to it, you want to be relevant. You want to find your path. You want to find your way. You want to um I don't know. It's kind of that's why I think the life of creative person it's a difficult path. Like uh an accountant can be a great accountant, can be an average accountant, but when he'll retire, not much will matter like of his career, right?
Well, they might make other people happy and things of that sort, but it's very insular.
Yeah, yeah, it's as an artist, if you didn't find your way, like if you didn't give a new perspective to people who see your art, if you didn't convince them, if you didn't, I don't know why all this struggle, you know, why you, I mean, I of course you do it for yourself, like uh first of all, I do it for my own pleasure because I cannot live without it. I go for vacation, after 3 days I start going crazy. I'm missing to paint, I'm missing to do something creative.
I could have painted for these 4 hours that I was supposedly relaxing and resting.
Oh yeah. Like people go and like go to the beach, go to the, I don't know, be around swimming pool. I go crazy after the second day. Like
Yeah.
I cannot stay.
Well, as long as you know what it takes for your battery to recharge, because everyone is different.
Yeah.
Like I sleep a little bit less than 6 hours a day, and I'm very good like that. If I sleep 9 hours in a day, or 8 hour, or 8.25 hours, which is like the generally the amount that someone my age should sleep, I don't feel very
Mm,
good. I don't feel very well at all. I feel a little bit, almost the slightest bit sick, like groggy, foggy, just not
yeah.
very sharp and quick.
I didn't sleep enough for years, so it's hard to tell. But I know that I don't sleep enough. Like I definitely feel that because I don't remember when I woke up without alarm last time. And when I'm getting into like this really crazy working mode, I sleep every 4 or 5 hours. I sleep for 20 minutes.
I've heard of that before.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you accumulate, and that's about enough time for like an REM
Yeah.
cycle.
So you don't get into deep sleep, but you recover faster. Also, I found out that if you take a 3 minute shower, it refreshes me as I slept an hour.
Hmm.
Like a hot shower just completely refreshes and relaxed me, and like
Yeah.
I also save time with that. But yeah, like I try to use the time as much as productive as possible. Not all the time, not around a year, of course. Like when I in the summer in Armenia, I kind of sleep my more,
Hmm.
but I cannot sleep more than 7 hours. Like I think like my body just cannot sleep that long. Like I think 6.5, that's my max.
Speaking of, traveling and not sleeping and all of these things, you very recently showcased some of your work at Art Miami. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience? What was that like?
Yeah, it was great. I showed this year with 3 galleries. So I was pretty well represented, which was a great experience.
What is it like showcasing a gallery in a completely different place than your home? What is that experience like?
It's funny, like I sometimes I just stay away and observe how people perceive it and how they some walk by, some stop by, and like yeah, it's interesting, it's curious. But I've been doing this to be honest, since 2012. I've been in Art Basel, Art Miami every year. So uh it gets to use like I'm getting used to it, but every year of course it's a big thing and it's cool. It's the biggest event in US I think for art as an art fair, let's say commercial event. But on the other hand, I'm kind of getting more and more disappointed by what we call art market. um
How so?
I think there are like it's a different space. It's a different space because Art Basel, Art Miami, all these art fairs, they are parallel to each other, of course, and it's a it's 1 week of people just shopping art. So, and galleries are selling art. People don't come really to, I mean, some people go to discover an artist or something like that, but it's more like shopping art. So it's becoming more and more commercial, I would call it. Let's say like that.
So more about like a sort of a consumer experience as opposed to an artistic experience.
Yeah, yeah. Like it's not. I think there is like it's not a museum show. Like say it's not a conceptual show. Each gallery, let's say like Art Basel is like the top world galleries that represented in one space by booths, and they represent like couple artists out of like their 30, 40 artists they represent. So it's like very dense representation of technically the best galleries and the best artists. But when you go to Art Basel, um, you see good stuff, but it's not when I go to see art, I want to be slapped in my face.
Hmm.
I want to see something that is like, wow, you know?
Metaphorically, of course.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah. But I want to like walk out like in knockdown, like, like, and I'm like, why? How I didn't come with that idea before this guy? How that
Mm,
happened that this guy made this and it's so amazing. And like,
right.
I didn't have this idea first, whatever. Like, I love that feeling, when I'm like positively. jealous of creativity, something, a new visual language, a new perspective, a new distortion of reality, or like a thought of. And Art Basel, it's becoming less and less that space for me, or any art fair. It's much more commercial. Yeah. So there are like pros and cons to that. Sometimes I'm like super happy to be there, and like 10 minutes later, I'm like, what I'm doing
Yeah.
here.
Do the artists perhaps make art in such a way that it's leaning towards the consumer side and less towards the artist side? Do you feel like the artists are now catering their work for purchase as opposed to for exploration?
A lot of artists do, majority. Yeah,
Oh, that's
I would say
sad. I
majority.
could see how that could be disappointing.
Yeah, well, that's the reality. Let's say music, like how many musicians are pop musicians, and
Mhm.
how much are like doing real music.
Yeah.
Like Tigran Tsitoghdzyan, how many followers he have, and Katy Perry, how many followers she have, like when she give a concert. Like it's kind of similar.
Right. I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with pop. It's just the magnitude in which pop has superseded
Yeah,
some of the other things that are of equal or perhaps in many ways greater value because of their uniqueness.
yeah, of course. But like even in sport, like the show is taking over the real sport. Like we have influencers who are making the biggest fights.
Yeah.
Yeah, so people are paying for names and for the noise, for the build up. In art is kind of same. We have a lot of like commercially successful artists, or like a stars, like um,
Yeah.
and I'm not judging, but
That's okay. It's okay to judge too. I mean,
yeah,
the positivity when you feel like you've been slapped in the face by a work of art is
yeah.
also a judgment. It's just a more positive judgment, of course.
Of course, but it's more on emotional way, like when you walk in this amazing museum show, or like even a big gallery show, and you see this, how it was curated, how this artist, I don't know, there is a thing that you just emotionally walk out a different person. When you
Yeah.
go to art fair, you see a lot of art that is, oh, this is cute, oh, this is original, you see that this was done to be hanged on a wall in somebody's house.
Mhm.
So also it comes from the galleries, because the economy is not doing well. I think art marketing in general is like sinking, like it's going down. So the sales are down. The galleries have to pay their rent, and they don't want to take risks on taking an artist that is more conceptual, or like who is more challenging, like, let's say. So they want to say like, oh, let me get this artist because he's colorful, he's like it's more positive, whatever. It says life is beautiful, and like this might sell, this will sell easier. So the gallery starts swinging towards
Mhm.
like more commercially oriented art, just to make sure that they're gonna sell it and pay their rent. And all this is driving to that the market starts swinging towards that. And yeah, that's the reality. You have to accept it and deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, I just think of the difference between some of the psychological literature I've read that almost seems like they boil it down to be so simple and accessible, which is fine. And then I think of the last psychological book that gave me that sensation of being like slapped in the face, and it was uh, by the English neurologist Dr. Oliver Sacks. He has this book, "The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat." It's a book about very strange mental disorders. And I remember I threw the book like 5 times,
Hmm.
like threw it out of my hands because I was just so disgusted with myself for not being anywhere near that level of crisp, colorful, vivid, beautiful, but still uh, somehow direct and understandable writing, and also his knowledge. The two things that I love in this world, uh, outside of the obvious things, are psychology and writing, and he is just a super grand master at both. And I remember I've had that feeling reading his
Yeah,
work.
totally agree.
It's overwhelming
Yeah.
sometimes.
That's what I expect. I want to see that. I want those feelings. You know, when you go to a
Mhm.
concert and you're completely overwhelmed, I want to have those feelings when I go to see art.
And no matter what, I mean, one of the coolest things is that now that book is forever a part of me. Now that concert is forever a part of you.
Yeah,
And it just echoes across your ever growing personality and knowledge.
true.
It's great being human.
That's awesome.
Speaking of, it's great being human. I don't want to upset you. I'm sure you've already thought about this pretty extensively, but there was a painting that was generated by AI. It's sold for $1.1 million. It's a painting of it's a silly painting of Alan Turing, who is the a mathematician who's one of the people who would be like the pioneers of artificial intelligence. What are your thoughts on how AI is influencing sort of the art realm, or do you think it's not going to be anything substantial? It's just going to be a gimmick.
Uh, no, I'm super curious, of course. It's very interesting. We're like entering the AI era and everybody keep talking about it, everybody keep using it. I start using it for writing. It just helps me because I'm not as good with writing and maybe telling stories as I could paint those. But with I think it's still overrated. I think that it can replace a lot of things, but it cannot replace everything because AI get can know more than I do, can calculate way faster than I do, but AI didn't have my life. Like AI didn't wake up like after sleeping 15 minutes and being dizzy, and like AI didn't have heartbreaks, that I had. It didn't have a child that is like drive you crazy sometimes and 10 minutes later and make you happy. It didn't have an ex-wife, like all these things
Mhm.
AI can understand theoretically and can try to calculate as a human, but it will be not honest and sincere. So I don't think that AI can do what a human can do just because of this, because this, while I'm painting something, can like my mood can switch and the energy of a painting will start switching at this moment. Like digitally, you cannot put that energy into any artwork. I would say like AI can
Right.
replace the a commercial artist that creates a cute thing on a wall, which is just visual. Like it's say like let's say I have a red couch and I want something matching to that couch that is looking pretty on a wall, some kind of abstract painting. And
Hmm.
with all the data of all the abstract artists have been creating since like I don't know over 100 years already, abstract art like exists, uh, can do something based on that, something very very genuine and nice. I believe in that. So a consumer
Hmm.
from its point will say, hey, like I can participate on the creative process. I can kind of give directions of what I want. I can scan my room, upload the images, and say, like, I want something, a perfect art of this dimension, size of my couch, exactly above my couch, in this color grade, whatever. And you're gonna give you choices, you're gonna pick and like find your perfect art, print it, hang it, and it will cost you $1,000 instead of 100,000 of somebody's who's another artist, right? A real artist. I can see that that can happen, uh, but I don't think that it will do like the real thing that will move us for real.
I think the idea that you wake up and you're a little bit dizzy and you're groggy and tired and you have these thoughts in your head and all of these things, and how that resonates in the actual art itself is perhaps the best description of the
Yeah,
differentiating factor between AI and not AI. I think, and I love that it was things that are like not very sexy either. Just just waking up like, ugh, and like that shows, and
Exactly.
you suddenly have, you're painting, and then suddenly, a car might pass by, and someone's blasting System of a Down, and you're like, oh yeah, nice. And then there's a little bit of happiness that maybe very lightly bubbles into the brush strokes. So AI won't really be able to do that. And even if it ever can be programmed to do things like that, it will be
Exactly.
so anesthetized, it'll be so cleanly done that it still won't feel real. And I've read so many artificial AI essays, unfortunately, and there's a certain cleanness to them that feels almost like the the heart has been shelled out of a human, or pulled out of a human, and all you have is this kind of almost a like a corporate version of a human being. And it's I could completely understand. I really like that description of like the fogginess and all the things, the baggage you're carrying with you, sort of emanating into the art in subtle ways that you could maybe
Yeah.
perceive if you were looking closely.
Like Bacon, he was beaten up by his lover, like, and he was painting his pain. How AI can replicate that or create such a thing? Replicate, maybe you can because it was already done, but how you can come up to that and put that pain on a canvas when you never felt the pain, when you never felt, um, you can only replicate, and but it will be so sterile, and like it will be, yeah, it will be perfect. There will be no imperfections. There will be no ups and downs. It will be very linear.
Yeah. And that's like one of the worst things a piece of art can be. It's perfect.
Exactly.
That ruins kind of the whole point.
Yeah.
This makes me think of the idea of sublimation. Sublimation is
Hmm.
the act of when you take the crap of your day, the sadness, the misery, the existential woes, the worry, the panic, your lover hurting you, any of these things, and you somehow use that as fuel for your art, and it burns that sadness away or that rage away. Like, I
Absolutely.
definitely write better when I'm sad. I
Mhm.
I have this kind of theory, and I'd like to know what you think about it. I feel that artists need to have some sort of dissatisfaction, because the very act of creating is changing the nothing into something. I feel like that there has to be some sort of, I don't mean sadness, but I do mean dissatisfaction with the notness of being, as opposed to the being of being. What are your thoughts about that? And do you feel like you sublimate your, we'll call them your negative emotions and experiences and thoughts, into your art?
I agree that uh, if you a creative person, if you definitely need the, I don't know if you can call it the sadness, but you need some kind of, you need to leave the pain in you. Uh, and I think your art need to have some kind of like the dark side in it to be an art. I think American movies became really bad when they started doing happy ending. Like I don't know any, like, to do a chedevre, like the movie have to end up bad, like to make like the piece of art. Because when you satisfy the viewer with a happy end, uh, there's the movie's over, and you turn the page and you forget it.
Yeah.
You satisfied, like you're satisfied that everything it ended well. But when it ends bad, that torture you for rest of your life, and you keep thinking about it. How could it go differently? I think in art is the same thing. When and I think this is also my problem in art, because I love the beauty, and the beauty is kind of the opposite. So like the painting a beauty, it's so hard to make it, to turn it into, because if you paint somebody perfect, um there's no much to add to the viewer.
The story is done.
Yeah, the story is done. So and I did it in purpose. I start questioning the beauty. because like humans became so obsessed by the beauty. Everybody would try to be more beautiful than they are, like through social medias, filters, etc., etc. So I started like, okay, I'm gonna paint people just idealized, like sublimated, as you say. Like it's a similar way of saying, um, but it's such a dangerous zone to go, and I think that's also it was my biggest challenge probably of doing like beautiful painting, because when you do something ugly, you definitely fall into this artist zone immediately, because you're doing something that is not accepted by majority. It's like difficult to look at, to see. So you're a real artist because you are not chasing the beauty. Because technically, like the cheesiest thing you can have, it's most beautiful things. It's like the sunset, the horse, everything that have been like, or like beautiful woman, and you falling immediately into this like very like bad zone where like, okay, this is not art any longer. Like, can you paint a horse with a sunset behind it but still do art? It's tough.
Yeah.
It's difficult, right?
I think the word is like facile because it's been done
Yeah.
so many times. It just blends into the cliche, and because the cliche is so loud, it sort of clouds the actual art. No matter how good the art actually is, it's been so overdone, and that ideal, even the finish line of creating it beautifully, has been attempted so many times that it kind of sours the actual image. The same way that if you hear a song so many times, or even
Oh
similar
yeah.
songs so many times, it starts to lose its actual sound. Same thing where if you hear a
Yeah,
word,
it's like Mozart ringtones. Yeah.
it's like Mozart ringtones. Oh my god. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It robs the actual art of any sort of art. It just becomes whatever the perimeter of art would be called, the frame, I guess technically.
But yeah, sublimation, it's an important thing, and yeah, it's very
Yeah.
real.
As you look on the horizon, what are sort of the projects that you see when you look behind the horse in the sunset? What are some of the projects on your horizon?
In ideal world, I will do only museum shows, and each show will be completely different from previous one. That's my ideal life. So given space, and it also depends of where the museum at. I want to react to the space, the history of the country, the place, uh, what kind of art is surrounded by, and just do something like how I come to that space today as as a creative person, artist, and how I yeah, I think that question is a lot of questions are coming from the place, history, the space, the size, and then I want to react to that. I will take like a year or two just to create a body of work, and for
Hmm.
specific space. I think because I kind of love limitations, and those are the limitations I want to have.
I think you love limitations because that gives you, when you have limitations in something like art, that gives you the opportunity to see how
Yeah,
deeply you can zoom
exactly.
in and explore those limitations. Like just because the parameters are like this, how deeply can you go into those parameters
Yeah.
without violating the parameters itself?
So I have in conversation, I have two museum shows coming, and that's very interesting. That's what I want to do.
When are these? Where are these? How can people?
It's not public, so I cannot announce yet, but 2027.
Amazing. And I would be remiss if I didn't ask you. There is a very interesting work directly behind you. What can you tell us a little bit about that, or is that also a secret?
No, it's not a secret. So this is maybe the last piece of this series I'm doing. I've been working for the last couple of years. It's like not finished, so yeah.
No, it's already it's because I've been trying not to stare at it too much while talking to you because it's so fascinating and just seeing like the veins and the tendons on the hand is like it
And this
just
I paint
keeps.
without models, so like I paint the last few I paint without having a model, so just out of my head. So
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah,
That's interesting. I have to say, Tigran, thank you so much. It's not every day I get to
thank you,
speak
Sam.
to a living legend and just a grandmaster in their field. No, you are. You're incredible. Your work is amazing, and I thank you. This has been very cool. So thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you for your kind words, and it was fun to talk to you. You're always very inspiring and interesting. Love talking to you anytime.
Oh, that it's a mutual feeling, and again,
Yeah.
thank you so much.